We had to move things around a little bit. Okay. We'll deal with the Commissioner Deeds at some point during the meeting. Councilor Caldwell.
Thank you, Councilor Hogan. Blessings to all. I have item 9. Commissioner Byrd, you here?
Hello, Commissioner Byrd.
Good afternoon, Council. Saisha Byrd, Commissioner of Parks. I just have an amendment for a date change. The dates were wrong. So I also would like to extend the invitation, if you have not signed up, for the awesome hay rides in Burnett Park. The dates are December 13th, 14th, December 20th, and 21st.
Thank you. Any
Great.
questions?
It's a great event.
Okay, we're all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christine Councilor Majux.
I'm taking it. Thank you, Pro Temp. I'm standing in for Councilor Majuk. He has items 10, 11, and 12. Yep. 10,
Morning, Rich Off, First Deputy Chief Police. 10 is not ready. That's, we're holding that or pulling or whatever we have to do
Yeah.
until Jamie, Director Oliver gets a new quote.
okay.
And I talked to
Chief,
Councilman.
that's been a while, right? Is this? when
This is the
was
second, no, it was on last session.
Okay.
And at the last session, Councilman Majuk said we're going to hold it until we get a new updated thing on it. I talked to Director Oliver and he's going to get it. I'm waiting for him to get the new one, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. 11 is Liberty Resources, continuation of a contract. We had the committee meeting last week. I spoke to Councilor Majuk. He said we were good to go.
Okay. All right, any questions?
Chief, at some point, I mean, is this our first year? This is our first year with Liberty Resources, right? Or is it second year?
The renewal, but last time the grant came from a different branch than the police department.
I just wondering, like, maybe a report to the council about how this is working out, this collaboration at some point.
So the committee meeting, Deputy Chief Russell brought all those reports in, and I can get you a copy of them.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Department of Fire, we have Chief.
12.
Good afternoon, Dan Downs, First Deputy Chief of Fire. We have item 12. This is just a reimbursement from a joint grant with Onondaga County. We're looking to amend a previous ordinance because there's more money available for from Onondaga County to reimburse for hazmat training. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor, are you taking 13 too?
Oh, 13, item 13 will be held.
Okay. That'll be held. Okay, I have items 14 through 19 will be, 14 through 19 are concerning the buildings on Sunnycrest Road, and it's also tied into a arrangement with the East Taylor Street.
You made it to 18, Councilman.
18.
Those are still being held.
Yes.
19 is where your new stuff starts.
That's exactly what I was going to say. They're all going to be held until we get appraisals.
Yeah.
19 is Restore New York. Who's going to speak to that?
Councilor Hogan, do we know where we are with the appraisals? Can we talk?
Well, I think back in the back row, like he's going to mass at Rosary at 9 o'clock in the morning. Commissioner OJ.
Good afternoon, all.
How are
Matt
those
OJ.
appraisals coming?
I am walking the site on East Taylor with the appraiser tomorrow. We picked a great weather day. It's going to be exciting. Going to bring snowshoes.
Will that improve or the appraisal value, the weather? The blizzard's 12 inches on the ground?
I think there will be an extraordinary assumption that the ground looks like what we think it looks like under all that snow. Eastwood Heights, I know the appraiser is in touch with SHA. We'll be getting into the building. Should have a deliverable by the end of the month.
By the end of the month? Okay.
That's the expectation. Thanks, all.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Caldwell, for bringing that to my attention. Restore New York grants, Commissioner Collins.
Eric, we just walked in.
Yeah, all right. So Michael Collins, Commissioner for Neighborhood and Business Development. I'm going to stand here and talk long enough for Deputy Commissioner Eric Ennis to take his jacket off and come up and tell you all about it.
Very good.
Good morning, everyone.
Hello,
How are you?
Deputy
In my
Commissioner.
defense, usually we don't get to these items until at least not 6 minutes in. But good afternoon and good to see you all. So The item that is before you is for the city to be authorized to apply for round 9 of their Store New York program. This is a program through Empire State Development that the city has applied for and has been successful for multiple times in the past. You do have to have a target area, so it is defined to a certain number of streets. You have to have a very, very focused target area. So we're looking at the West Onondaga Street corridor. This would be designed to really supplement our existing efforts with downtown revitalization initiative and a number of other things. So, sorry, I'm just a little out of breath from coming up the stairs. That's all. So my apologies. But essentially, this is grant funding. It is for projects that we've identified where there is a funding gap. This would be designed to help support that funding gap and help these projects advance if the city is successful. So right now, we're just asking for the authorization to apply for up to $2 million.
Say that all again, Eric?
There is a public hearing as well, right?
Correct, yeah. So one of the requirements of the program is we do have to have a public meeting. So we would look to, the plan is to have that on December 18th. And that gives the opportunity for the public to weigh in on the request as well.
And Eric, it mentions up to 2 million. Is that the cap for the grant, or how did that $2 million
Yeah,
figure
oftentimes
come?
what we found is that this program, there's been 8 previous rounds, obviously, and the state funds it at different levels each year depending on the budget. So it's become much more competitive. So even though they're saying a municipality of our size can apply for up to $2 million, oftentimes the actual award amounts are much smaller than that. So we'll go in for likely as much as we're eligible for, but unclear how much we'll receive.
Is this for the West Onondaga Street?
Yes, so because of the fact we have to have a defined geography and the projects have to be in close proximity to each other, there's a number of different investments that are in the pipeline and being proposed for West Onondaga Street. However, there's still a funding gap, so we have the ability to pursue and apply for the funds that we could use within West Onondaga Street for this project, and that's what those addresses are that are listed.
What are 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Yeah, so to
This
speak
item
to
will
two
get
of them,
Sorry.
so two of them are really what we're kind of targeting and focused on. So the first one is 366 West Onondaga Street. This is what's known as the Whedon Mansion. It's a green 3-story building. It's owned by the Syracuse Land Bank right now. So that's one of the projects which does have, again, a funding gap in order for it to move forward.
Right behind the Midway Express.
Correct. Yep. And then the other one is a long vacant apartment building known as Trinity Park Apartments. So that's at 615 West Onondaga Street. There's been a number of different proposals for that building, but ultimately what we're doing is looking to redevelop and put that property back into productive use. So again, the program itself is targeted for vacant and underutilized properties, which is why we think this area, but also these properties are a good fit.
So it's also mixed use, right? It's mixed use property too.
Mixed use is a component that they encourage as part of the program. So in the case of 366, that'll be commercial office as well as residential. And then the Trinity Park Apartments is still potentially could be mixed use as well.
Is that the one with the garden in the back? I'm mistaken.
I'm not. I don't know if it's.
Okay, I'm thinking.
What are the other two?
So the other two, at this point, they're properties that are vacant, but where there's opportunity. So the first one is the former Walgreens store that was vacated on West Onondaga Street. We wanted to be able to at least include it. Right now, there is not a redevelopment for that building or that project. And then the last one is the Trinity Corners is what it's known as. This is where the Gillette House is, but then you've got the church next door to it that's been vacant for quite some time. So there's a proposal. The idea is to pursue a brewery for that project. So again, a vacant building, it qualifies for the program. It's right at that intersection with the other 3 properties. So we wanted to include it just to really kind of round out that whole area.
So as far as the owner,
Eric's been working a long time in the West Onondaga Street corridor, and it's shown great progress over the last few years.
Yeah, so this is what we kind of view this as an opportunity to supplement the city's DRI strategy. So we have some of these projects that have been awarded funding through DRI. We've seen both through inflationary costs, the cost of borrowing, and construction costs, some of these projects do have gaps. The state is actually encouraging for cities and communities to look at Restore as a way to help fill those gaps. So it's part of the reason why, again, we want to help complement the existing efforts that are happening in this area, and that's why we ultimately are looking at West Onondaga Street.
Something like the Walgreens, because it's not something that it's locally owned. The the site,
Yeah.
does it still qualify?
It still qualifies, yep. It has to be vacant, and then there has to be really a plan that would have to be put forth for the project. So that's why I wanted, again, some of these sites, there isn't a redevelopment plan that's really fully baked, but for the projects that there are, that's really where we're looking to lean on as part of this application.
And these are the ones you're submitting, it doesn't mean they will get money, because we
That's
don't know how
correct.
much money
Yep.
we're getting.
Yes, but one of the things that's important is you do have to include it, and that's all part of the public notice, that's all part of the process for applying. So we wanted to include it, because when you really do stand at that intersection of South Ave and West Onondaga, you are looking at multiple vacant properties right at the same corner. So we wanted to target all 3 or 4 of those.
The public notice to, are you putting it in the paper?
Yes, so yeah, usually we'll take care of that, and we'll make sure it's advertised ahead of the 18th.
I was talking, Eric, I was talking about, it was 381 West Onondaga, where you have commercial businesses on the main floor and his apartments right across what we're talking. So I'm hoping
That's
that,
farther down.
yeah, right across from 366. I think
Okay.
I'm there. Yeah, I'm concerned about that.
Okay, that's helpful to know. Oftentimes, if there are buildings that are occupied, usually they're discouraged for this specific type of program. But
Okay.
for properties like that one, certainly with the amount of energy investment and things taking place on West Onondaga, the rest of the larger corridor should benefit.
Yeah, because this house is mixing saloon and some other businesses. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Any chance was Phyllis's properties a part of the consideration?
So we continue to have productive conversations in terms of just what redevelopment could look like. A big piece of that is going to be the acquisition. We know the property's been listed for sale in the past, and we're looking to continue to try and identify a developer for that property. It's just, I think the sale price and the ability to acquire it just remains to be a challenge and a hurdle. So, but that's one that we continue to focus on because it's right in the middle of.
Because it's the multiple parcels?
The multiple parcels, but also the school itself, that former school it's in such poor condition, and there's so much that would be needed from a capital cost standpoint.
Okay.
So,
For this project, it does not have to be, so the old Rite Aid is not owned by us, but we can apply for it, right? So what about like the salon, that spa, 500? Were they considered in there too, because they're right next door to it?
they're right next door. So there's a number of other properties in that area that have been applying for a commercial corridor program that we were able to put together, which was funded by DRI. So, for example, the spa, some of the other properties in that area, they're benefiting from that, from other funds in the program, particularly through DRI. So largely, we're trying to focus on buildings that are 100% vacant as part of this program.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah. Thanks for giving me a chance to catch my breath.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay, 20, this special permit. Jake, you got this?
Good afternoon, Council. Jake Dishaw, Deputy Commissioner of Code Enforcement and Zoning Administration. Item number 20 is a special use permit. This is for a new restaurant tenant. This space was formerly Loaded Burger Bar and Beer Belly Deli. New zoning code triggers just the requirement for a special use permit. One person spoke in favor at Planning Commission and no one in opposition.
You know who that person was? What? You know who that person was who spoke in favor?
I think I recall.
Yeah, it was me.
Good job, Counselor.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
it's a fine Italian restaurant on Westcott Street, so. Okay, 21 and 22, I wanted to talk to Counselor Majelk about this, but I put this on, I actually came from Deputy Chief Russ, and it's memorializing the Senate. There's 2 Senate bills that would basically raise the age, somebody apply for it to be a police officer to 40, and consider the lack of the number of positions the city of Syracuse has open in the police department, and it seems like there's a dearth of people who want to be police officers anymore. This maybe I think this would help out all the municipalities across the state, but this is just for us, so I decided to put that on. Councilor Williams.
Just want to ask a question. You all on board with those resolutions? Yeah. I am. Everybody?
Didn't say any. It's up to 40, Marty, not 70. Okay?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You know, I know. Can we get a special deputy badge for maybe Councilor Nave?
Yeah, get it down here, yeah.
Counselor Hogan, this is sponsored by you and Joel, or?
No, well, I think maybe we can ask Joel, I imagine he'd
Okay,
be in
all right,
favor,
cool, I
but
got you.
anybody else who'd want to,
Okay,
like,
all right.
plug in on this,
Okay.
okay. Counselor Williams?
Good, thank you, Counselor Hogan. I've got items 23 through 27 today.
We have the finance commissioner back there, right?
Yeah.
Commissioner? You got 23 through 27? Or is the budget director supposed to take this? Or Frank, maybe?
What are we looking at?
Well, I guess with 23,
What
it's
year-
a,
what, 23 words?
Yep, 23
There
is
you go, right there.
960.
There you go.
Here's David.
Yeah,
I guess I'm doing the same vamp until David gets it.
all right. And so Dave, I'll ask you for a quick overview, but let you know that I do intend on holding this. You know, another $1 million for IT support and modernization. I'd like to kind of have a deeper look at these items in particular. And as we transition to budget season, where I know that the administration is working hard preparing the budget for the next fiscal year, I intend to have a meeting to talk about IT, digital services, and get a much better, more well-rounded perspective of what we have going on. And so, like I said, I do intend to hold, but if you wouldn't mind going through a quick overview of what these are.
You can take these as well, because Counselor Williams saw them already. They're going to be a waiver.
Sure. So, councilors, I'm Dave Perrock, Director of IT. Item number 23 is our 24-25 capital allocation. This is our ask for our cash capital for the 24-25 year. And there's a second page to the letter that identifies the buckets where we intend for these spends to occur. I understand what you said, Councilor, regarding the platform modernization and wanting to table it to get the 40,000-foot view. The platform modernization is not a part of that ask. That is, that's largely hardware. It's mostly the nuts and bolts. That pays for our PCs, the phones you have on your desk, our network equipment, and stuff like that. But I understand your point of view, and if you want to do that, I'd be glad to engage in that.
Appreciate it, thank you. And while I've got you up there, there are 3 items that we're going to introduce on a waiver agenda. If you want to run through the 3 of those quickly, thank you.
Sure. Well, we could start when we're talking about capital. There's also an ask for the 24-25 capital. This is bonded capital for $500,000 that is being allocated to the fire barn. We've identified the fire barn up in Onondaga Park as a location that would be strategic in terms of if there was an emergency or something happened in downtown Syracuse and we could not operate here. Where could we go and still conduct the business of the city? We're not looking to replicate for 150 or 200 people, but for the mayor and his staff, where could they go at a hot site almost, if you will, and operate? The fire barn has actually tremendous infrastructure built into it, multiple internet feeds. It's got super duper boilers and large amounts of electrical power there. And it seems like a really good fit that we would allow it to operate, at least on the second floor, for almost a hot site in case of an emergency. So that's the $500,000 ask, which is bonded capital for the 24-25 year.
I remember, Dave, an item came before us not too long ago for funds for the fire barn for youth programming related to whatever, esports, is that what you call it?
Yeah, I think that was parks.
Yeah. Would that plan interfere with what you're talking about here?
I don't want to speak for the parks director, but last I knew that plan was for the esports would operate on the first floor, and this would operate on the second floor, would be locked off. So I believe that's how we're going to separate it.
Yep. And I see Sayusha nodding her head back there.
But what would it be for? I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm missing something.
So,
Is it for equipment?
Parks would utilize the first floor for esports, e-gaming.
Yeah.
The second floor, what I'm asking for would be for infrastructure to harden the second floor so that it would be like an emergency operations center. So we'd have equipment there in case we needed satellite phones and laptops ready to go there in
Okay.
case this building was not accessible for whatever reason.
Okay.
The one more piece of legislation that I have before you, please, is an amendment to a contract with Cogent. Cogent is an internet service provider that we use here at City Hall. So we've used them for 5 or 6 years, and there was legislation to support entering into that contract. After 12 months, it goes month to month. So that City Hall contract is month to month. We've added on a second connection with Cogent for One Park Place. And since we were month to month, I didn't think I needed to come before this body, but I failed to realize that the original legislation had a not to exceed amount of I'm over it. So I'm asking to amend that legislation to increase my not to exceed amount to the total that we spend at City Hall plus the connection we already have in place at One Park Place. That was my fault. I missed that part of the original amendment, original ordinance.
So, question.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
at One Park Place, we don't have a hardware. So if something was to happen, there isn't a place at One Park Place that, being that staff is already there, where
No,
City
so
Hall could move?
this is for an internet connection.
No, I'm back
but-
to,
oh.
I'm sorry, I went back because I was thinking.
So when you plan for these horrible events, emergency management, if City Hall is, I don't know, underwater, I'm going to believe that One Park Place isn't that much better off. So seeing as we have a building that is hardened on top of a hill outside of the city center, and it's not a huge building, it's just probably big enough to operate 10 or 12 people, that seemed to be a really good fit. The problem with building it out in One Park Place is if we're broke here, 2 blocks away, what's the chances of that building going to be alive and well? Also, that building is not a building that we completely control and operate. We lease, 2 floors there, whereas the fire barn is all under our control.
So is that going to take away, my concern is it is a park that is utilized a lot. Is that going to take away from our children and opportunities for them to, or families to use the space if we're taking up that much space? And is this every year? Is this just a one-time, or is this every year it's going to go in the budget?
This is the biggest ask we're going to have, I anticipate of this. But towards the use of that building, this would only be for the second floor. The second floor isn't used by the Strathmore Group or the yoga classes. That's all on the first floor, which would still be open for that and or esports based on what Parks wants to do with it. The second floor is already blocked off. It's just underutilized. And it seems like a really good fit in terms of the infrastructure that's there. Quite frankly, it's way up on a hill, and it's the right size. It's big enough, but not too big.
I don't know. I want to hold that. I need to go do a look and make sure we talk because I didn't know anything about this. And then the second piece is this a second, is this a one-time, are we coming back again? Because IT seems to we come back every year. Is this going to be another cost next year?
For the fire barn, I think we've asked one other time for some money. I would expect this would be the lion's share of that ask. We don't anticipate another ask, but I can't promise you that. We haven't built out an emergency center at that location before, so we're getting our arms around everything that's involved. We have to get emergency power there. We have to get either a diesel or a propane generator. We have to just all these little steps, and this is going to fund some of that build out.
And what about the Strathmore community there? Have anyone talked to them?
This is utilizing the second floor that is is not open to the public.
I know that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
will
any of the build out interrupt some of the stuff that they normally have?
No.
Okay.
No, this would strictly be on the second floor.
So we're all set on security and stuff like that? It's a pretty isolated area at night.
Yeah, it is, but it's a good point, Counselor. There was, who's doing it? We just met with Trades a couple of weeks ago. They've gone through and redone the security. They're putting some secure doors up there, and some of the windows are being replaced as well. And the second floor has a modern shower, but it's being built out. I'm sorry, a big bathroom. It's being built out to have a shower in case people had to spend the night there in an emergency situation.
So there's a lot of construction going on that we
So
don't
this
know. anything.
already started?
Yeah, know anything about
None,
this.
none of this has. I'm asking for the money. I can't do anything
No, all
without
the
any
other
money.
stuff. Let's hold it.
All right.
And I have,
It would be on the waiver agenda, and so we'll coordinate with the
we can
clerk
talk to let me know
to
what to
figure
do
out
with
how
it.
to.
Yeah, I
how to
mean,
approach it.
it's a whole progress.
One more. Move fast, no.
A few years ago, we migrated from an on-premise email server to Microsoft projects to migrate our servers that operate here at City Hall to the Microsoft Cloud. Microsoft Cloud is called Azure. So as time has gone on, we have ramped up and been able to migrate these workloads from on-premise, where we're 100% responsible, to the Microsoft Cloud, where we let them take care of it. It gets a little confusing. I'll try and talk quick. If you buy a Microsoft license or server in New York State as a government entity, you buy from one vendor. Dell has that contract. Okay? That's changing at the end of this year, but currently it's with Dell. During this 3-year time frame, we had the migration to the cloud has gone very, very well. We're well ahead of the pace we anticipated. Things are going well. We've learned a lot. We're very methodical about it. Every time we move a workload from here to the cloud, in terms of cybersecurity, we're facing less risk. We have the experts in the business maintaining the server. We don't have to order it, set it up, get the license, apply the license. There's a lot of soft costs involved in that we step out of when we let the experts do it. Towards that, there's a bill to pay at the end of the day for these Azure services. Now, again, the vendor in this case was Dell, still is Dell until 12/31. Try as we might, we have asked them for a bill for our services going back 15 months. They first produced a bill to us for the 2023 year this September. So this is our first chance to pay this bill, and budget thought that I needed to come here to ask for your permission to pay a 23 bill with 24 money. That's what I'm asking you permission to do.
I don't have it in front of me. What's the dollar value on that, Dave?
Close
Not
It's $60,000.
to 60,000,
Right.
yeah. Close to 60.
We have the money, and I don't like the timing of it either. Dell struggled with it at times, and they're being replaced at the end of this calendar year. There'll be a new vendor in place. Okay. SHI.
Will that change when the new vendor comes?
Yeah, we've met with them several times, and we're learning more too as we go. We could have managed this better, but without some transparency, it's really hard. So we're putting some guardrails in place so we don't end up in this situation again. Okay?
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
Hey, give me my papers.
Okay,
All right,
Councilor Jones.
24 through 27, I believe, Commissioner OJ.
I mean, for hearing.
15 and 1515 Burnett Avenue. This would be for sidewalk exemptions. We'd be retroactively restoring the exemption. Property had a new sidewalk installed. My understanding is that the contract got dropped, but it did. Property should be rightly exempt.
All right, good. 25 tax levy? Oh.
Good afternoon, Common Council. Mike Canizero, Commissioner of Finance. 25, 26, and 27 are the calendar year tax levy for Onondaga County. The $46 million figure includes the city apportionment, the city abstract, the drainage amount is also in there, so that is 25. 26 is the water district. This number did increase, doubled, but you spread this out across 60,000 households. It's not a significant increase. And then the sewer charge, 31.5 million. That's basically flat year over year. So these are for the calendar year 2025 county tax bills. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Jones-Rouser.
Thank you, Pro Tem. I have item 28. Which I am thoroughly confused about.
Good afternoon again. Jake Dishaw, Deputy Commissioner of Code Enforcement and Zoning Administration. Item number 28 is a encroachment request to build a ramp and a set of stairs outside of 509 West Fayette Street. This is the Delavan studio, so it would be the southeast portion towards Wyoming and Marcellus. So there is a door, existing door, and an overhead door there. The way the building, it's so old, it's constructed, there's elevation difference. So to meet new code, they need to put this ramp and step in for the expanded art gallery that's going in. So it's a required exit. This is just to meet new egress and safety requirements by code.
Counselor, that's an anchor on West Fayette Street. I'd be in
Yes.
favor of anything.
Okay, I do understand that it is an anchor in that community. I do want to follow up with some of the questions based on the city's notes about the illegal parking and if that's going to be, I don't think it's a heavy traffic walking area, so I'm not really concerned with the ramp as far as some of the notes, but the parking part we need to follow up about that. So we'll talk.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it's maybe the parking can be abated by police enforcement issues over there as far as illegal parking goes. So maybe we talk to the deputy chief of police or something.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Jake, can I meet with you after the meeting, please? I have
Sure.
a couple questions.
Call him
Thank
Coach, Coach Jake.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Hogan. I have 29 through 32. All yours, Joseph.
Good afternoon, counselors. Hope you're doing well. So yeah, this item is the Reconnecting Communities Planning Grant that the city applied for and was successful in acquiring in 2023. The basic goal of this this project is to increase connectivity for the south side, the East Adams neighborhood. We're looking at 4 major roads, Adams, Taylor, Colvin, and MLK, and we're going to be engaging Stantec as our consultant to really look at particularly pedestrian and bike infrastructure, but any ways to increase connectivity for the south side to the university. So in a post-81 world, the south side residents will have better connection to downtown, better connections to the university. And Stantec, some of the members are here today in the chambers. Many of the counselors, Counselor Monto, Counselor Nave, Counselor Paniagua, and Counselor Jones-Rouser were on the committee selecting with us. And among their many accomplishments, Stantec also worked on the Rochester Inner Loop project, which Syracuse has looked to as a great example of how we want to get things done. So they have a lot of experience in the field, and I feel very confident they'll do a great job.
Go ahead.
Yes, sorry, go ahead. Yes, it was RFP. Yes, we had I believe 5 or so respondents, and then we went through the proposals and came down to 2, and then the final selection was Stantec.
Part of the RFP is in the book, but if you want the whole RFP, I can get it to you.
This is interesting because at one point there was a lot of connecting quarters to the university that was taken down. That was able to get access from east side and south side. So
Yeah.
it'd be nice to see how we redevelop back this, because there used to be steps behind Pioneer Homes to go
Yep.
right up there. So,
Yeah, that's the kind of things we'll be looking at, definitely.
and that means the university is on board.
We'd still be engaging them, but they are, particularly ESF is one of the in-kind partners on this grant application. But yeah, we will be speaking with SU as well as we go along.
And Joe, as I said at an earlier meeting, I think we have to take a serious look at East Adams Street because it's all one way.
Yeah.
And even when you go on MapQuest, it'll say make a right on Adams, you can't.
Yeah.
So I would hope that we can make a serious look to make it both ways.
Yeah, that's definitely Adams, as next to Almond Street, Adams, I think, will be the biggest transformation from the 81 project, converting that from one-way to two-way, and then throughout this process, looking at pedestrian and bike connections and better intersections there.
Yep, Joe, it mentions $500,000 grant, 130 in local in-kind services. What would the in-kind be?
Yeah, so in past, like a huge component of this grant is public engagement. So basically, all of our partners, SHA, Centro, Blueprint 15, ESF, all of those partners and the city will be donating staff time. ESF has agreed to let us use their cafeteria and like some of their catering services. So if we want to do community engagement events, we'll have all those resources and all that staff working with us to help. Centro's offered to provide transportation for people to engagement events and stuff like that. So to meet this grant required a 10% local match. And so rather than just go straight to the budget, we were able to work with USDOT and Federal Highway to get that staff time be our local match part of this grant to avoid going out of pocket for it.
Can I request something right now while we're on? No more roundabouts.
No more roundabouts.
Thank you.
I'm making a note, Counselor.
Does the Stantec, do they have a design already?
No. So they'll be looking at it and trying to figure out. So that's kind of the goal of the grant is for them to leave the process with a full design. So basically, at this point, they're just looking at the major corridors, and then they'll, throughout the course of this engagement, finish with a design plans and finalized strategy. And I will say that the most exciting thing about the Stantec application for me was that they said they don't concept plan, they concept do. So a big part of this project will be them helping us figure out how to get from A to B to C to D as far as finding funding and developing a strategy to making sure that the plan that they draw up gets implemented as well.
So Joel, this will be like mostly east of Salina Street we're talking about?
Yeah.
So we're not going to like, I know there's projects planned for like the Light Parkway, bicycle paths all the way up through the west end along the old land track route.
Yeah.
It's not being looked at, it's just going to go east.
I mean, we'll be looking at everything. I think the goal is like greater connectivity. So we will be looking at all the bike infrastructure and all the paths. But yeah, this will particularly be looking at just Adams, Colvin, Taylor.
They'll be cognizant of that.
Yes.
Planned, right? So,
Totally.
Okay, good. Okay.
A big part of this. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention one of our most important partners on this, SMTC. So SMTC has been working with us throughout the RFP process, and so as Stantec begins their work, SMTC has all that regional planning thoughts, and we'll make sure all the studies that are relevant will be in their process as they're looking at what to do.
The only other thing, I wanted to put it out because you wanted to answer questions first? Okay. Yeah, the one thing I do need an account number where we would be getting the money from now, because I know the city is gonna incur the initial costs, so can you provide that for me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll get that to you right after the meeting.
Okay, sure, thanks.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thanks, Joe.
Anything else? Everybody good?
We're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, councilors. Mary Robinson, city engineer. Items 30 through 32 are related to also the East Adams 15th Ward Reconnecting Communities project. It's a TIP project, which is part of the Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods grant that we have with New York State DOT. So we're asking for a bond ordinance, an agreement with New York State DOT, and project authorization for the scoping and preliminary design phase at a cost not to exceed $300,000, and this grant is 100% reimbursable, and the total cost would be $30 million. 100%.
That's 100%.
0 local.
Sounds good to me.
So this is, the project boundaries are street infrastructure improvements between East Adams to the north, South State to the west, Burt to the south, and Almond to the east. And it includes street improvements, paving, sidewalks, trees, lighting, pedestrian improvements, bike lanes, and utility improvements as well, sewer and water.
Sounds good.
Questions? Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
We'll go to Councilor Monto and Councilor Williams.
Thank you, Councilor Hogan. Item 33 is a resolution which will oppose the permit application for an expanded Seneca Meadows landfill in Waterloo. The concern that we as a city have is that traffic and materials coming to and from the landfill cross through the Skaneateles Lake watershed, which is the source of our drinking water. The landfill had a projected end of life of December 31st, 2025. They're applying for a 15-year extension. And again, my primary concern is the quality and safety of the water that we as residents get. I would like for our council to support the town and village of Skaneateles, which both came out in opposition to this project, in addition to Waterloo, Rochester, Madison County, Schuyler County, Tompkins County. The list is long, and I would like to be included on that list.
Well, as a matter of course, if we pass this resolution, there'll be copies sent to our state delegation, right? Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions?
No, good.
Okay. I've neglected to mention that I'll have a couple waiver items. They'll concern the revocation of a couple special use permits. What we'll do is we'll set up some public hearings as we have to do according to law. So, yes.
I just wanted to verify, it would go to the DEC, but it in some of the other counties and towns or whatever, but it won't go to our legislators.
Okay.
All right, we can talk more.
Well, I think they should probably get copies of this, whatever the resolution, our state delegation should. So they're aware that we're opposed to it.
You want to send it to local leaders in the smaller towns as well?
Let's talk afterwards.
All right.
I mean, it is the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, so maybe our legislators should be aware that we're opposed to it. So that's just a sort of a question. And like I said, I'll have a couple waiver items. 34, Councilor Monto.
Thank you, Councilor Hogan. We will continue to hold 34.
All councils
Hogan, before you end the meeting, I have a question that I should have asked earlier.
Okay,
If it's for Eric Ennis. Sorry, Eric. My apologies. I just got some calls from the Comstock area neighbors regarding St. Vincent. Do we know what's going on up there with that project?
So I can't right now give
Okay.
you that update. What I will do is I'll go back, I'll get the latest updates, and I'll make
Okay.
sure we get that to you with a quick
For
turnaround.
next,
I don't want to, okay, I was just going to say, I think I'll
okay.
pass off to Commissioner Collins,
Okay.
but thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor, you're talking about the former Vincent Apartments?
Yes, yes.
So we have been in regular contact with the ownership, Clear, out of Chicago. We have not gotten satisfactory responses regarding anything that has to do with the redevelopment of that property. They've stated to us that they've turned over the units in one particular building, but that they can't reasonably reoccupy until they've got a few buildings online. But we've not seen anything recently to indicate that they've continued to do that. So we've stayed on top of it from a code enforcement standpoint. We can't necessarily force someone to redevelop a private property that we don't have funding into. So we're continuing to apply pressure in all the different ways that we can with the mayor's office. So, Councilor Gathers, you had a question? Yeah. I'm sorry, say again?
Do we see anything that they actually did turn over one building to
So,
show the truth?
no, we've not, because of the fact that it's a vacant building, we haven't had reason to go in and re-inspect. We have asked to tour with them when they're here, and that hasn't happened. Since we don't currently have residents in there at risk, what we've chosen to do instead is just continue to maintain pressure on them about actual redevelopment there and also at the former Skyline.
There's nothing we can do, because I know there's squatters. That's why I got called, because they said they're seeing people squatting, squatters there. And
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, please.
No, go ahead. I just want to know, that neighborhood, if nothing happens soon, like, there's nothing recourse that we can take as a city for that neighborhood?
So I'm not saying that there's not any recourse that we can't take. I am not necessarily in a position where I feel like I can say, hey, we can force them to redevelop it. What we can do, let me catch up with you afterwards about which building you're aware of squatters in, because code enforcement is up there every week to just ensure that everything's boarded up. That doesn't mean that somebody hasn't, pulled the board back and then pulled it in so that it's not visually that way. But we are through every single week checking on the property from a security standpoint. Happy to follow up with you about that. Okay. Definitely. Yeah, we do the same for the dumping up there as well, which is why the streets were closed off. It was to minimize the dumping. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
About, because it's in the same area, I don't remember the exact street, but there was a street that's off of Colvin that had, it leads to SHA's satellite project. And there was that gate that was open. Do we know if that ever got locked?
I believe it did. Followed up with the executive director of the Housing Authority immediately after you and I talked, and he was having his security take a look at that.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Good. All right. Thanks, councilors.
Yeah, I did that. I already said that. Everybody, I'll say it again, revocation of Taste of Brooklyn and Tammy's, especially. Okay, any motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay.